Welcome, welcome to lesson number 38. On our previous lesson, we were looking at the bones of the hind limbs, and here we are going to look at the types of joints. When we were looking at the bones of the hind limbs, we were able to come across some bones such as the femur, which articulates with the pelvic girdle. We also looked at tibia and fibula, and tarsals, metatarsals, and phalanges. But today we are going to look at the types of joints that we have. There are three types of joints, and those types include immovable joints. Immovable joints are the types of joints that are fixed, hence they can't enable any kind of movement. They include such joints as the ones that are found within the skull. They also include such joints as the ones that are found at the pelvic girdle. Such joints may not permit any form of movement at all. We also have another category of the joints which is referred to as the gliding joints. These gliding joints are the ones that may permit movement to some degree, and such kind of movements that may be provided by the gliding joints may include movements such as the ones that are found within the wrist region. There is a joint here, and it just allows some slight movement. There is also another joint which is found within the vertebral column. Those joints enable movement, just some slight movement to some degree. They are referred to as gliding joints. Such joints, so we can say that the examples of gliding joints are the joints that are found at the wrist, and the ones that are found at the ankle and within the vertebral column. Let us move on and see. We also have another type of joint which is referred to as movable joints. The movable joints can still further be categorized into two, that is ball and socket joint, and we also have the hinge joint. We are going to look at the types of movable joints and where they are found. The movable joints are also called the synovial joint. This is because they have a fluid which is called the synovial fluid. This fluid that is found within the synovial joint is also referred to as the synovial fluid. The function of the synovial fluid is to act as a lubricant, and it also acts as a shock absorber. The reason as to why it is acting as a lubricant is because there is much friction that may be developed when the joints are moving, and such friction may be eliminated by using the synovial joint. We also have it acting as a shock absorber in case of maybe some pressure that has been exerted to the joint. The synovial fluid may prevent you from feeling the pain that may be associated with that pressure. That synovial fluid is produced by a membrane which is called the synovial membrane. There are some ligaments whose function is to attach bones to bones, and the tendons attach the bones to muscles. The ligaments also act as a shock absorber, so that in case there is any kind of force or pressure that may be exerted onto the joint, these ligaments may be acting as a shock absorber. We'll be able to see them later on. And we also have some cartilages which act as the shock absorbers as well. Let us look at an example of ball and socket joint. The ball and socket joint comprise of a bone which comprises of a head, and another one which comprises of a cavity into which it will fit. For example, if this was the bone of the pelvic girdle, then this is the hip bone, the bone that we call femur. Its name is down here. Let me see if I can zoom in so that you can see this word. We have this one here called femur. This is the part of this bone. I hope you are able to see the bone called femur down here. Then this one is the pelvic girdle. This is now forming the ball, and this is forming the socket into which it is getting in. And we also have this membrane here that is called the synovial membrane. The synovial membrane is this one that is appearing to be reddish in color, bluish in color all over here. Then in it we have this yellow fluid which is called the synovial fluid. Spelling of the word synovial fluid is here. The ball and socket joint allows movement of up to 360 degrees. And in this case, the movement is said to be possible on or in all planes. And when I say the movement is possible within all the planes, I'm referring to the instance whereby if this is the ball and socket joint that is found at this point, it can enable my arm to move up and down. It can enable it to move back and forth. It can enable movement up to 360 degrees because my arm can go around easily. That is the ball and socket joint. And this joint may not enable, may not have enough, may not provide enough energy to bear a lot of weight. When you do this, a very heavy load, if a heavy load has been placed here, you may not be able to carry it. And if you will not be able to carry it for so long because the joints that we are having here may not permit the body to do that. We also have another category of the synovial joint, another category of the movable joint that we refer to as the hinge joint. The hinge joint is the joint that is that allows movement at only one plane, and it moves of up to 180 degrees. If this one here is the hinge joint, it only allows movement in a single plane. Then it cannot allow any other movement apart from that. And if that happens, we also say that it can only allow movement up to 180 degrees. While for the other one, that we called the ball and socket joint, it would permit movement of up to 360 degrees. This hinge joint can be able to bear even some heavy weight because it has got a certain part here which is called the olecranon process, and that process prevents the arm from overstretching. Examples of the hinge joint are the elbow. The word elbow is here. And another example of hinge joint is the knee.